Oh my god, Jay!
What's wrong, dude?
I don't know what's going on.
What's wrong?
I feel like I'm gonna explode.
No, hold it in, Joe. Hold it in. Whew, boy.
Jesus!
Thanks for bringing me back to life, Tabmok99.
No problem, Jay.
I had to get out of the afterlife. I have a lot more videos to make.
I've spared your soul once again. At this rate, I've given you more life than Johnny Cage himself.
Sorry about that, my lord. What do I owe you?
Your soul may never rest. Not until you do way more top 10 videos.
We've done our favorite movies. We've done our favorite games. What else do you want, my lord?
Until the Elder Gods have been satisfied. Now go forth once again into Season 7 of NerdCage Live and do what you do best and demonstrate the strength of geek knowledge.
Let's do this. All right, you heard the man. Here's my top 10 favorite TV shows of all time. Let's do this. You're now about to witness the strength of Geek Knowledge. Hello, welcome. That's right. Once again, you are trapped in NerdCage Live. This channel is a celebration of all things pop culture, including our favorite TV shows. This is another Get to Know the Cage segment as me and Joe name our favorite movies, games, etc. And this time we're hitting our favorite live action TV shows. I know it's been a few years, but I'm so happy to be back doing this, going into what is now our 7th season of NerdCage Live. All right, let's start this segment with an honorable mention. So, my honorable mention before we get into this top 10 of my favorite TV shows of all time, Martial Law. What an incredible action series this was. I was a huge Jackie Chan fan, and watching all his films, I was introduced to Sammo Hung, which brought me to this show. And of course, shout out to Stanley Tung, who's an amazing stunt director who had his hands on the show. The fight choreography in the show was amazing, and this also introduced me to Arsenio Hall. This introduced me to Kelly Hu. It wasn't the most well-written show, but it had that Jackie Chan style comedy in there. It had that slapstick comedy, but it never let up on the action. It only ran for 2 seasons back in 1998. It's a damn shame that the show wasn't bigger than what it was. All right, let's kick things off. At number 10, running for 6 seasons back in the 90s, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Yes, this was my go-to show. This was my happy place. Now, don't get me wrong, there were other great shows around this time too, like Family Matters, but this had more edge than Family Matters. Will Smith and Alfonso Rubio, who played Carlton, had such great chemistry. All the comedic moments, all the pickup lines, seeing Jeff get thrown out the door by Uncle Phil. And yes, Uncle Phil, James Avery, we miss you. We love you. You are my absolute favorite TV dad. This show not only had some great comedy and it was well written, there were some really heartfelt moments throughout. I feel like anyone transitioning from a teenager to a man really could gravitate towards this show. One of my favorite shows of all time, and I love going back to it, and it still makes me laugh. At number 9, going to some hardcore, edgy, violent material here. At number 9, I have Sons of Anarchy, which ran for 7 seasons. Now listen, I do think this show ran a little bit too long. I think it should have been shortened just a little bit. But man, those first 2 seasons, that 5th season, and that final stretch of final episodes, man, that was some of the most intense drama and most violent TV that ever hit the screen. Very well acted. Shout out to Charlie Hunnam as Jax, and of course, obviously we all know Katie Segal. We all know her as Peggy, but this was a different side of her in this show. And of course, Ron Perlman, Ryan Hurst, who now is going to be our Kratos, by the way, at the time of this recording. And of course, this show had some great cameos from other terrific actors, and it was very well written by Kurt Sutter. And I just want to say, like, every time I was watching this show, I felt like such a badass for watching this show, and it was fun going into work the next day. It's like, yo, did you watch Sons of Anarchy last night? Yes. I need to go back and rewatch it again. It's been a few years, but my God, yes, this show still holds up. At number 8, as we boldly go where no man has gone before, Star Trek The Next Generation is my number 8 favorite show of all time. This was my comfort show. I mean, this ran for, 7 years back in 1987 all the way to 1994. This was my introduction to Star Trek. Not to take away from the OG series, but I gravitated to this series well before I watched the original series in the original run. And of course, this led me to the movies with Star Trek Generations and so on and so forth. There's a lot of comfort here because this is what my mom and dad was watching like every weekend, and I was just a little tyke sitting in the living room, kind of like playing with my toys, but kind of like watching while they were watching. But man, what got my attention was when the Borg came in. That was some of the best, craziest sci-fi I've ever seen on a TV series. And of course, what a wonderful cast. Patrick Stewart as Jean-Luc Picard, Jonathan Frakes as Commander Riker, and of course, my favorite, Michael Dorn as Worf, the strong guy. You know, come on, man. Worf is the man. Also, I want to give a special shout out to Picard, seasons 1, season 2, and of course, season 3. And of course, shout out to Tourette's guy with Data.
He played Data on Star Trek.
Oh, yeah. Man, I wonder what he's doing nowadays.
He's probably getting fucked in the ass!
But yes, this is the best Star Trek series there ever was. Not to take anything away from the OG, I wasn't too wild about Deep Space Nine. And of course, Voyager was awesome, but nowhere near as awesome as The Next Generation. This is true Star Trek. At number 7, Mr. McGee, don't make me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry. Yes! The Incredible Hulk with Bill Bixby and Lou Ferrigno ran for 5 seasons back in the late 70s, early 80s. Oh my god. So I watched the reruns on the Sci-Fi Channel as a child. This was my first exposure to the character of the Incredible Hulk, and I thought it was the coolest thing I've ever seen. Seeing this guy morph into this monster. You know, Lou Ferrigno's jacked as fuck, and he's like throwing shit, fucking grabbing dudes by the collar and fucking throwing them across the fucking room. It was the most coolest shit I've ever seen in my life. And then I remember that episode where there was the other, like, skinny, mean Hulk that he fought. And then I remember the orange container episode, and like, oh my god, this show was so amazing. And of course, the 3 TV movies that followed a decade later, the Incredible Hulk Returns with Thor, the Trial of the Incredible Hulk with Daredevil, and then the Death of the Incredible Hulk, which, you know, a lot of people are like, well, that's how he dies? But whatever. As cheesy as the show was, Bill Bixby never phoned it in, and it was just so cool seeing those transformations happen right in front of us. It was amazing television. It may be corny, I can't help it. And oh my god, that sad song at the end just gets you every goddamn time. But whenever time you morph from the Hulk and you hear that dun 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 dun, like I'm just like, yeah, like, let's fucking go. Yes, Incredible Hulk, great show. Check it out. At number 6, we are going into very dark territory here. The very first HBO series ever conceived, Oz. Okay, listen, I remember going to a friend's house who had HBO, and I watched it. Now listen, when I was a kid, I saw Ernest Goes to Jail, and I thought that's how prison was really like. And then when I saw Oz and seeing all the violence, men getting raped, and all that stuff, holy smokes. So that's what goes on in prison. Oh my goodness gracious. What an amazing show. Finally, as I got to rewatch it in high school, when I had HBO, rewatched it all. And this was a show that introduced me to Evan Seinfeld, which introduced me to Biohazard. So yes, Oz introduced me to Biohazard, which also led me to New York Hardcore. So I have Oz to thank for that. And of course, an amazing cast, well written, always on the edge of your seat. And you know what? I wouldn't be mad if we got a revival to see what all these dudes are up to now. The ones that survived anyway. Alright, keeping this countdown alive at number 5. To no surprise, as you all know how much I love Mortal Kombat. That Mortal Kombat Conquest is my number 5. only ran for one season, but there's 22 episodes. Very, very amazing. It takes place during the time of the Great Kung Lao, before the 1995 movie, and it respects the lore. A lot of familiar characters from the games appear throughout the series, which makes this really awesome. Factions, and of course, Jeff Meek, who plays Raiden. It's a great Raiden. Don't get me wrong. He's no Christopher Lambert. He's a very, very good Raiden. But oh my God, he also plays Shao Kahn, and is easily the best Shao Kahn to date. Yes, it's 90s cheese. Yes, there's bad dialogue. Yes, there's some corny ass fights, some corny special effects. I don't care. This show is highly entertaining from start to finish. I love it. And Bruce Locke, although he's no Terry Tagawa, is a great Shang Tsung. If you've not checked out Mortal Kombat Conquest, I highly recommend you do. At number 4, there can be only one. Yes, Highlander the series. Should be no surprise, as Highlander the movie was one of my favorite movies, while the TV show is one of my favorite TV shows. Alright, Adrian Paul, okay actor, an amazing martial artist, an amazing swordsman, and my goodness gracious, what makes this show really great though is it really, since it's a long series, it really gets to dig deep into the lore of Immortals. And they added in the Watcher element, which is a pretty cool element that you never thought you needed it, but you're glad you have it. Also love the fact that whenever there was like a new villain introduced, a good chance it was a famous musician from the 80s and 90s, so that was always cool to see. Some episodes are a drag, but the 3rd season and the 5th season really go into high gear, and the show had a perfect ending, only to be ruined by Highlander Endgame the movie. Also, shout out to Peter Wingfield as Mythos, who is a great mainstay, comes in halfway through season 3. And speaking of 3, at number 3, another Kurt Sutter show on FX, The Shield. Yes, starring Michael Chiklis and Walton Goggins. This was a violent and an intense drama. Okay, this was like our generation's Dirty Harry, but the intensity is just cranked all the way to 11. There is nudity, there is violence, so much shit that got away with on cable TV because it was a late night show. Some great actors who appeared in it, even some comedians and musicians who would appear throughout the series. All 7 seasons were solid from start to finish. Great ending, and this was peak Michael Chiklis. And also around the same time, he filmed Fantastic Four. I never get sick of rewatching this show. This show is better than Sons of Anarchy. All right, at number 2, going back to the comedy side of things, going back to the 90s, my number 2, second favorite show of all time is Seinfeld. Yes, I grew up in a household that loved Seinfeld. You know, as a child, maybe I didn't get all the jokes. Kramer always made me laugh. And then as I got older, when I started picking up all the little things, all the little quips, all the, you know, what made the show so fascinating was like the small things, small interactions between people in general. And the show Seinfeld like really honed in on that stuff that we don't feel comfortable talking about, right? If it was like double dipping or something stupid like that, Seinfeld brought that into the light, and it was always funny. Shout out to Larry David, who was a brilliant writer, and it was great as George Steinbrenner, the, you know, former, God rest his soul, the owner of the Yankees. And of course, being at the show set in New York City, you know, but if you live in New York City or live in the East Coast, some of the jokes hit harder than normal. So yeah, this is absolutely it's easily the best comedy show of all time. I always like to go back and rewatch, right? If it's like the shrinkage or the parking lot or the Chinese restaurant, I can always go back and always laugh. I can play it in the background. I can just giggle and laugh. The show never gets old. It will always stand the test of time. You know, your 4 main leads, Jerry, Elaine, George, Kramer, they're so obnoxious, but it's so funny. And of course, there's Newman and the parents. You know, there's just so much greatness to this show. I absolutely love it. I never get tired. I never stop laughing either. If you haven't ever watched Seinfeld, I highly recommend that you do. I promise you won't regret it. Okay, at number 1, I'm going to cheat a little bit here, and if you saw my t-shirt, I kind of gave it away. My number 1 is Breaking Bad, but I'm going to extend it. Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. To me, it's one big series together. Yes, it's the most intense drama ever made. It's funny when it needed to be, but oh my goodness gracious. You know that famous meme where it's like, I don't always watch Breaking Bad, but when I do, I watch multiple seasons in a day. And that's motherfucking true. And it's same with Better Call Saul. I think Bryan Cranston, as well as Bob Odenkirk, easily can make the argument they are the greatest actors who ever graced a TV show. I never get sick of rewatching. I've probably rewatched both of these series multiple times. I've lost count. It's the best show of all time. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me that there's a better show out there. There isn't. Both shows ran for 6 seasons and there was never a dull moment. Everything that unfolded just blew your goddamn mind. So look, I had a lot of fun doing this, so let us know in the comments section, what is your top 10 favorite TV shows? We'd love to hear from you guys. And of course, we'll be back as Joe's going to do his top 10 TV shows. And of course, after we're finished with our top 10 TV shows, it only makes sense that we have to do top 10 animated shows. So please, as always, like, comment, hype, subscribe, all that good stuff. Spread that shit like meth. And good night. God bless. Keep watching great TV shows. Check out all these shows that I mentioned. And have the best day of your life.
So many got my time.